Our peanuts jar is totally empty. Wait, I know one other place we can find peanuts. Good thing I still have these peanut plants growing in the windowsill. A little texture never hurt. There we go. This Sunday's gonna taste great!
I don't know, somehow I doubt that. Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to Binging with Babish. For this week we're taking a look at SpongeBob's onion, ketchup, and peanut plant Sundae. And yes, this is an actual peanut plant that I bought on Etsy. It's too young to have yet yielded any nuts, but I think ultimately that's not going to matter. So for the TV show accurate version, we are weeping as we thinly slice a large Vidalia onion, filling a bowl with our ice cream surrogate, aka a whole bottle of ketchup, scattering our Vidalia onions across the top and leaving plenty of room for our Tennessee red organic heirloom peanut plant. Roots, dirt, and all, as SpongeBob said, a little texture never hurt. Except that eating dirt is a very effective way to give yourself a parasite. I had to Google that, and I came across a lot of articles on the subject because apparently there's a lot of people out there that like to eat dirt. I, however, am not one of them, so I'm going to carefully scoop around the dirt, grab some peanut greens, which are apparently perfectly edible, and here we go. Let's try a bite of SpongeBob's improvised sundae, which I hopefully shouldn't have to tell you is not very good. It's ketchup, onions, and leaves. It's like eating a burger without the bun or the burger. And yes, it did give me rancid breath, so making an edible version of this is going to take some doing. I'm thinking the only way to do it is to make ice creams flavored after the different parts of the sundae. First up, the onions. I have 2 large Vidalia onions that I've halved and thinly sliced, which I'm now going to caramelize. I'm going to start by gently sauteing them over medium-low heat, adding a little kosher salt and freshly ground pepper, and then I'm going to cook them covered, stirring occasionally for about 15 minutes. We just want the onions to soften up, as well as give up a bit of their moisture, but we don't want anything turning brown just yet. Once about 15 minutes have passed and the onions are nice and soft, we're going to remove the cover, increase the heat to medium, and cook, stirring frequently, for anywhere from 45 minutes to an hour. Add a splash of water and scrape the bottom of the pan as many times as you like until you have some deeply golden brown jammy onions. This stuff is completely delicious and very naturally sweet, so I'm very curious to see what kind of ice cream it's going to make. The next thing I'm curious about, tomato-based ice cream, which is going to be our stand-in for ketchup. I'm going to start by making a tomato jam. I'm cutting little crosses into the bottoms of 1 kilogram of fresh, ripe tomatoes, which we're then going to blanch and peel. In other words, we're dropping the tomatoes 1 or 2 at a time into a pot of boiling water for about 1 minute, or until you start to see the skin split along the sides. We're then fishing them out and dumping them directly into an ice water bath. This is called shocking the tomatoes, and it's going to both halt the cooking process and make the tomatoes easier to peel, which, once everybody's blanched and shocked, we're going to start doing. We're going to gently peel the skins off each tomato, then cut the tomatoes into quarters, cut out their cores, and then cut each quarter into 1-inch pieces. Once your tomatoes are broken down, it's time to scoop them directly into your lap. This is going to make for an efficient, I'm just kidding, there's a saucepan down there. Into a medium saucepan goes our tomatoes, along with about 450 grams of granulated sugar and the juice of half a lemon. We're then going to bring this to a simmer over medium heat, reduce the heat to medium-low, and continue to simmer for about an hour, stirring frequently and occasionally skimming off the orange foam that appears on top. By the end, the mixture should have reduced by about half. Now, to represent the peanut plant, I want something earthy, something grassy, and something peanutty. So I'm going to make a beetroot, matcha, and peanut ice cream. Now, for all of our ice cream flavors, we're going to need a basic custard, same as the one we made for mochi ice cream last week. 4 cups of heavy cream, 2 cups of milk, 1 cup of sugar, and a pinch of kosher salt, brought to a bare simmer over medium heat. Then we're bringing this mixture over to 8 separated egg yolks that we have set in a large heat-proof bowl. Then we're going to very slowly ladle the mixture into the eggs while whisking constantly. This is going to temper the eggs, which is going to prevent them from scrambling in our ice cream. And this ice cream is going to be weird enough without scrambled eggs in it. Once we've added about 1/3 of the heavy cream and milk mixture, we're adding everything back to the pot and whisking constantly over medium heat until it reaches 175 degrees Fahrenheit and becomes thick enough to coat the back of a spoon. Now, into some various containers, I have our different flavorings. Tomato jam on the far left, followed by caramelized onion. Next, some beetroot puree, and last, some creamy peanut butter, about 1/2 cup of each. We are then tiny whisking each of these until they are completely homogeneous. And if you're wondering where the matcha ice cream is, I have some left over from last week that I'll be repurposing. Because, fun fact, you can melt and rechurn ice cream. Well, maybe that's just a fact, I don't know about a fun fact. Either way, every custard is getting covered and fridged overnight before being churned via your method of choice. There's our beetroot ice cream, some matcha ice cream, some peanut butter ice cream for a peanut flavor, caramelized onion ice cream, and tomato jam ice cream, each of which should be churned until it has the texture of soft serve, at which point we're going to scrape it back into a clean container, smooth it out, and let it camp out in the freezer again overnight. Then about a half an hour before serving, we're going to transfer everybody over to the fridge so they can soften up a little bit for easy scooping. So here we go, 1 heaping scoop each of caramelized onion, tomato jam, and then to stand in for the peanut plant, you'll see that I did a kind of Neapolitan of beetroot, matcha, and peanut butter. Is it the prettiest thing in the world? No, but neither am I, and I'm okay with me. But is that all about to change as I dig into this insane mishmash of savory sweet ice creams? Let's find out. The caramelized onion was interesting, the tomato jam was interesting, and the beetroot matcha peanut butter was interesting. That's about the only thing I can say. They are inoffensive, but I wouldn't go so far as to call them good. I think what this thing needs is a little bit of the old-fashioned sundae treatment. Whipped cream, chocolate sauce, and a cherry. Now that is a sundae. Let's take a big old bite and, that is when I learned that chocolate and onions don't mix.